moment where I'm working still and I can work alongside my son. It's one of the greatest gifts I've ever got from the man above, and I'm going to take full advantage of it.
Staying away from Bronny James until he fell all the way to the Lakers, 55 in the second round. I don't care because Bronny James belongs with LeBron James. Bronny James can handle playing alongside his all-time great father, the greatest scorer in the history of the NBA.
The internet didn't need long to ignite. One emotional interview clip from LeBron James was all it took to light the fuse. But what happened immediately after is what truly accelerated everything, because the moment LeBron defended Bronny in that raw, almost worn-down tone, the sports world didn't lead with sympathy, it led with controversy. And right in the middle of that storm, Skip Bayless did exactly what he always does when LeBron shows vulnerability on camera. He went after it. Not with measured criticism, not with balanced perspective, a full, relentless reaction that instantly divided the internet into two opposing camps. The clip that started everything wasn't even designed to be controversial. LeBron was simply talking about Bronny, about the pressure, about the constant noise that trails his family everywhere, and about how genuinely unfair the level of scrutiny had become. His tone wasn't strategic, it wasn't carefully worded for public consumption, it was personal. You could feel it in the pauses, in the way he kept trying to hold his composure while repeatedly returning to the same point, that people are passing judgment on his son before the kid has ever been given a real opportunity to develop. But in today's NBA media environment, emotional honesty doesn't always earn understanding. Sometimes it's treated as a weakness and pulled apart piece by piece, and that's exactly what unfolded here. The second Skip Bayless responded, the entire conversation shifted. It moved away from a father defending his son and transformed into a debate about whether LeBron is being overprotective in a way that's actually making things worse. Skip didn't soften his take. He challenged the timing of LeBron's comments, questioned the tone, and raised the implications of LeBron speaking so openly about Bronny's struggles, while simultaneously being a central figure in the Lakers' championship ambitions. And just like that, what started as a personal, human moment became another national argument about legacy, about pressure, and about whether the NBA media landscape has completely lost the ability to separate a player's private life from the professional game being played on the court.
He's got humility to him. He doesn't act like he's privileged, but they treat him, the coaches treat him like he's privileged because he's that guy's son.
The internet didn't need long to ignite. One emotional interview clip from LeBron James was all it took to light the fuse. But what happened immediately after is what truly accelerated everything. Because the moment LeBron defended Bronny in that raw, almost worn-down tone, the sports world didn't lead with sympathy, it led with controversy. And right in the middle of that storm, Skip Bayless did exactly what he always does when LeBron shows vulnerability on camera. He went after it. Not with measured criticism, not with balanced perspective, a full, relentless reaction that instantly divided the internet into two opposing camps. The clip that started everything wasn't even designed to be controversial. LeBron was simply talking about Bronny, about the pressure, about the constant noise that trails his family everywhere, and about how genuinely unfair the level of scrutiny had become. His tone wasn't strategic, it wasn't carefully worded for public consumption, it was personal. You could feel it in the pauses, in the way he kept trying to hold his composure while repeatedly returning to the same point, that people are passing judgment on his son before the kid has ever been given a real opportunity to develop. But in today's NBA media environment, emotional honesty doesn't always earn understanding. Sometimes it's treated as a weakness and pulled apart piece by piece, and that's exactly what unfolded here. The second Skip Bayless responded, the entire conversation shifted. It moved away from a father defending his son and transformed into a debate about whether LeBron is being overprotective in a way that's actually making things worse. Skip didn't soften his take. He challenged the timing of LeBron's comments, questioned the tone, and raised the implications of LeBron speaking so openly about Bronny's struggles while simultaneously being a central figure in the Lakers' championship ambitions. And just like that, what started as a personal, human moment became another national argument about legacy, about pressure, and about whether the NBA media landscape has completely lost the ability to separate a player's private life from the professional game being played on the court.
Bronny be a man. The first thing Jordan told me when he saw that, because we were together, he said, "Pop, I'd lose my shit." He said, if I did that, if someone was talking about him and I did what LeBron James did, he would lose it. He said, you gotta let me be a man.
Here's the part that almost nobody is actually discussing. The NBA media machine doesn't reward emotional honesty in real time. It consumes it. When LeBron speaks openly about Bronny, he isn't reducing the pressure surrounding his son, he's amplifying it. Because every quote instantly becomes a headline. Every sentence gets pulled into a debate segment, and every emotional moment becomes raw material for analysts like Skip Bayless to work with. What was intended as a genuine human moment gets repackaged as content, and content always gets analyzed, picked apart, and more often than not, distorted somewhere along the way. LeBron's defense of his son came from a real place, and that much is obvious. He's lived under the microscope for over 2 decades. He understands better than almost anyone how narratives form faster than facts do, and how quickly a story can take on a life completely separate from reality. But what makes Bronny's situation uniquely complicated is that he isn't simply LeBron's son navigating public attention. He's also a young player trying to carve out his own identity in one of the most unforgiving professional environments that exists in sports. And that's the tension at the center of all of this. Every time LeBron speaks with that kind of emotional openness, the conversation surrounding Bronny shifts. It stops being a discussion about player development and starts becoming a discussion about legacy protection. 2 very different conversations with 2 very different stakes attached to them.
Weak for stepping to you, but you're taking shots at him as a father on TV behind a camera. I have zero respect for what he said. You are on TV condemning a black man as a father because his son is playing in the NBA.
Skip Bayless jumped on that tension immediately. He questioned whether Bronny is being handed a genuine developmental path or a carefully constructed storyline. He suggested that the way the Lakers are managing Bronny feels distinctly different from how the organization would handle any other rookie. And while he never stated outright that Bronny doesn't belong in the league, the implication was clear enough that fans ran with it anyway. That's the particular power of Skip's commentary style. He rarely makes the declaration himself. He frames the question in a way that lets the audience draw their own conclusion, and then the audience does exactly that. Once Skip spoke, social media responded the way it always does. Not with careful analysis, but with immediate sides. One group accused Skip of being deliberately cruel toward a young player still searching for consistency. The other argued that LeBron himself created this entire situation by turning Bronny into a global storyline long before his son had ever played a meaningful NBA minute. And suddenly, the argument wasn't about basketball anymore. It became about parenting, about fame, and about whether athletes who carry legendary status can ever truly separate family from professional competition. This is where the situation becomes genuinely dangerous. Once Bronny transforms from a development project into a debate topic, everything he does carries symbolic weight. A missed shot stops being a missed shot. It becomes evidence of pressure breaking him down. A benching stops being routine rotation management. It becomes proof of organizational doubt. And when Skip Bayless adds his interpretation to that framework, it doesn't matter what the Lakers say in press conferences anymore. The narrative has already moved beyond their control. LeBron's frustration in that interview made complete sense from a human perspective. Think about what that actually looks like from the inside, being one of the most scrutinized athletes in the history of the sport, and then watching your son get subjected to that same level of examination before he's even had the chance to fully settle into professional basketball. That emotional response wasn't calculated, it was protective. But Skip's counterargument was built on a different philosophy entirely. The NBA doesn't operate on feelings, it operates on performance. And once you enter that system, no amount of emotional framing changes what the expectations are. The debate quickly expanded into deeper territory. Analysts began drawing comparisons between Bronny and other second-generation NBA players, debating whether the pressure surrounding him is genuinely unique or simply an intensified version of what the job has always demanded. Some former players defended LeBron's emotional transparency, pointing out that parents in professional sports have always responded strongly when their children are involved. Others sided with Skip, arguing that continuous public defense from a father of LeBron's stature may actually be adding pressure rather than relieving it. Throughout all of this, Bronny stayed quiet. No lengthy statements, no public pushback, just basketball and limited minutes. But silence doesn't stop the speculation in today's media environment. It feeds it. Every quiet moment gets filled with outside interpretation. Every bench appearance becomes a talking point, and every segment that Skip produces adds another layer of narrative weight onto a situation that's already carrying more than enough. The Lakers are now caught in the middle of something they cannot fully manage. On one side, LeBron is giving emotionally honest interviews that connect with fans on a personal level. On the other side, media analysts are openly questioning whether the entire situation has become a distraction from what should be a straightforward player development story. And in the center of all of it is Bronny, a young player trying to grow under conditions that no other rookie in the league is facing. That's not just pressure, that's a structural imbalance. LeBron's legacy complicates everything around it. He's no longer simply one of the greatest players the game has produced. He's a cultural institution whose family decisions get treated as living sports history in real time. Every word he says about Bronny gets amplified because it connects directly to legacy storytelling. Skip Bayless understands that dynamic better than most commentators working today. That's why his reactions are never purely about on-court performance. They're about narrative ownership. Who controls the story? The player, the family, or the media? Fans started picking up on something worth noting, too. The more emotionally open LeBron becomes in interviews, the more aggressive the media response gets. It almost operates like a formula. Emotion triggers escalation, escalation generates content, content demands reaction, and the cycle continues. LeBron defends Bronny, analysts challenge the framing, fans divide into camps, and Bronny absorbs the weight of a conversation he was never the one driving in the first place. Here's what's genuinely being overlooked. Skip isn't only reacting to LeBron's words, he's reacting to the influence those words carry on public perception. In a media-driven sports culture, perception frequently shapes reality more than performance does. Once LeBron speaks about Bronny with that kind of emotional investment, it reframes how every future performance gets interpreted. Bronny stops being a developing rookie and becomes a narrative symbol attached to one of the most powerful figures the sport has ever seen. This is typically where young players begin making mistakes. They feel the pressure accumulating from every direction and try to answer it all at once, forcing moments, chasing redemption plays, abandoning the patient development process in favor of trying to silence critics immediately. But Bronny doesn't even have the option of controlling his own narrative timeline. It was constructed around him before his career had any real chance to begin. And that's what makes every Skip Bayless segment land heavier than it probably should. The Lakers organization hasn't escaped the scrutiny either. Critics argue the franchise knew precisely what it was signing up for the moment it drafted Bronny. Supporters counter that the team is simply doing its best to manage an unprecedented situation responsibly. But what Skip's reaction revealed is an uncomfortable truth that sits underneath all of it. There is no standard developmental path available for Bronny James. Every decision is already politicized, and LeBron, whether intentionally or not, keeps reinforcing that reality every time he speaks with emotional honesty about his son. Each interview adds another layer, each quote adds more weight, and Skip Bayless thrives in exactly that kind of environment,
because his approach feeds directly on the tension between superstar legacy and media skepticism. The most striking element of this entire situation is the speed at which it escalates. One interview clip becomes a national debate within hours. One analyst reaction becomes a trending topic by morning. One emotional quote turns into a philosophical argument about parenting, privilege, and the obligations of professional sports. And Bronny, still at the very beginning of his career, finds himself at the center of conversations he never started and never asked to have. At its foundation, this isn't really about Skip Bayless criticizing LeBron. It's about how modern sports media processes and consumes emotional honesty. LeBron's defense of his son was genuine, unfiltered, and deeply human. But in the current media environment, those exact qualities are also what makes something combustible. They don't bring narratives to a close, they intensify them. And Skip Bayless understands that dynamic better than almost anyone operating in sports commentary today. As the debate continues, the central question isn't really whether Skip was right or wrong in his reaction. The larger question is whether the NBA media ecosystem is even equipped to handle situations like this one anymore. Because when family, legacy, media commentary, and rookie development all converge at the same point, there's no clean narrative to follow. There's only tension, competing interpretations, and a conversation that never fully resolves. That's exactly where this is headed. Every Bronny minute will be scrutinized. Every LeBron interview will be dissected. Every Skip Bayless reaction will get amplified and shared. And the conversation will keep cycling between protection and pressure, between legacy and performance, between emotional defense and hard-edged criticism, until eventually what remains isn't the interview or the reaction or the debate segment. It's the one question the NBA doesn't seem capable of answering anymore. At what point does protecting a legacy become the very thing that destroys it?